Hello, good morning, everybody out there, and welcome to the newspaper review here on Versity. My name is Jennifer Mosu, and I trust you all had a great weekend. It's a great week to be back here with you to keep you updated on the ongoings in and out of the country. So, as usual, I'll hit our newspaper stand, starting with the Nation newspaper. It's been a bit since we had the Nation. So, above the masthead there, we see the picture of the governor of Anambra State, who was also a former CBN governor, Charles Soludo. On page 6, he says, President fair to Igbo with appointments. And another story, also acquisition of bank, CBN deputy governor quiz. It's also on page 6. And Aisha Ahmad, a deputy governor of Central Bank of Nigeria, was quizzed and whisked away by the EFCC over the weekend. Though she's been released again, but it was in question with a lot of activities that have been going on in the Apex Bank and illegal acquisition of banks. There have been a lot of allegations on that stance. So that story and more details concerning it comes up on page 6. And on pages 7 and 8, we see United Nigeria 6 slots into London, Dubai, and other routes. Ogun government, Daniel's wife, cash over vandalized plaza. The wife of a former governor of Ogun State, Mrs. Gbenga Daniel. She's had some run-ins also with the government and governor of Ogun State over her plaza that was demolished, and you know how these things go. So it's on page 8. That's a juicy bit there. Then below the masthead, we see British warship in Lagos, and it's part of the Royal Navy, British Navy's activities and drill to help their partners all over the West African region to support against illegal trafficking and piracy. So these are some of the gains they say the partners and allies in West Africa and the sub-region here. So that in case you might see a British warship and get worried, like, is there an invasion? No, there's no need to worry. Federal roads collapse across states. Vice President directs urgent action on Jalingo Yola Road. Governor sick, Umhai's quick intervention. Of course, Dave Umhai is the Minister of Works and Housing, and he's been all over. He's been taking massive tours all over the country to check the state of this repair of our roads and, of course, to effect contractors who are fixing those roads. He's been called out for saying concrete should be used in road rehabilitations, so many things. But to get that story, it's on page 6. And before the masthead, we see U.S. scientists develop artificial kidney. Wow, that's a huge one. It's on page 56. On page 4, wheat production gets $163 million boost. Yeah, we all know we need that kind of boost in the agricultural sector, especially since the invasion on Ukraine by Russia started. So we've been seeing wheat and a lot of cereals and things that come from wheat. Those things, that prices have been on the increase. That's why your cakes are more expensive, your bread and all that. So a huge boost into our economy to produce wheat in a large scale, so we don't have to rely so much on importation. Good one there. And the major story now from the Nation. Tinubu strikes multiple deals with Germany, Korea, India. World leaders pledge more interest in agriculture, fintech, education, defense, and the German Chancellor is set to visit Nigeria next month. And the president from India, he's moved on to the United Arab Emirates to resolve bilateral disagreements. That's quite an awful traveling nasties everywhere. I hope this is not bringing back, what happened in the last era, where the former President Muhammad Buhari, he rarely stayed in the country. He was more like a visiting president. He was in and out and everywhere. I hope this is not what we're going to see from this dispensation. You said it was your turn to rule. and you have all it takes to. So you have to stay here, face whatever we face, and give us solutions here. All right, moving on from that story, you can get it on page 4, of course. A Morocco earthquake death toll passes 2,000. That was a very sad one. Starting from Friday, Morocco was hit with a massive earthquake. I think that seismic reading was about 6.8 on the Richter scale magnitude. It spread all over Morocco. It was even felt as far as Algeria, a neighboring country. And the this the depth of the earthquake. Yes, I got the right readings. Was said to be about 26 kilometers. So imagine an earthquake going 26 kilometers. The damage it did was huge. Historic landmarks, United Nations cultural sites, many things were destroyed. Felt over several places, Rabat, and a lot of other places. I think Casablanca and some other places in Morocco. Sad one. Presently, they're counting 2,000 plus casualties. Authorities have not been able to get into some inner regions in Morocco because they've got a lot of mountainous spaces. But we hope, more effort is put into rescuing people. A lot of foreign governments have promised their aid and are also on the scene to help with evacuations. All right, and another story, we see drone attack kills 40 in Khartoum. This was in Sudan, so that drone attack killed a lot of people, medical workers, activists, and all that. Sad stories. You can get that on page 6. And we see in Nigeria here another tragedy. It's not little because it's still tragic. 26 die in Niger boat accident. I think we're so used to saying Niger now, but this is a Niger state, and both accidents happened. So sad. You can get the details on page 55. And of course, something to make you smile now. We've had too many sad stories on page 63. Eagles wallop Sao Tome 6-0. At the point I was going like Saotome. I thought they would spell Sao Tome and Principe. So probably everybody in the team would have been able to score one goal each. But good one from our Eagles there yesterday in Rio, where they did their thing. And we hope they can continue with this kind of momentum for the qualifiers and to be able to get to the African Cup of Nations finals. But anyways, that's from The Nation this morning. And from The Nation, we've got the Punch newspaper. And from the Punch newspaper, above the masthead, we see banks' bad loans hit 478 billion naira amid economic downturn. Whew, bad. Page 19. Also on page 19, states get 1.51 trillion naira FAAC allocation in 6 months. Native. All this, we keep on seeing, I don't know if should I call them trumped up or bogus sums. If states are getting 1.51 trillion, come on, it should be reflective. It should reflect on the lives of the people. It should reflect on our amenities. What's going on? Is it that these figures just exist on paper, or maybe they're on paper and some other people get to take the top cream of everything? I don't know. But just saying, that's why we always advocate for an existing database to be there to serve for purposes of record and distribution. Anyways, page 29, Keyamo, the Minister of Aviation, his picture is shown there, and it says federal government foreign airlines meet as flight disruptions worsen. More people are having flights cancelled that being stranded at the airport. Some of these airlines are not even making arrangements for people who miss flights. Maybe you get to stay in some good hotel, and your journey continues from there. So I don't know. Mr. Kayamo needs to take things slowly. I don't know, he's a lawyer, but I don't know, maybe he needs to learn a bit of diplomacy. You don't just do things with a fire brigade approach and expect, the best results, or you do things in a commando-like style. This is no military regime. You should know more about the law and the rule of law, being a lawyer. So many of these practices, well, I'll leave it at that. But and the major story now from the Punch newspaper: National Assembly polls tribunals to decide 400 cases and sittings. Well, what will I say? Let me read the riders first. 7 Delta reps, others to know their fate this week. Tribunal sack Kano NNPP lawmaker and Imo State PDP representatives. Plateau governor gets verdict today as tribunals decide poll petitions in more states. These petitions will definitely come up because the truth is a lot of people are aggrieved. Even after the main presidential sitting, the tribunal that sat, we saw a lot of discrepancies. We know some of these things. Some of us, we might even have foreknowledge of the law, but we just watch when things like this go on. You say yes. The defense team of the opposition parties, they were ill prepared, but I asked, and I've asked quite a number of people, when you have all that time to prepare your cases and your evidence and whatever you're bringing, what would make you lose sight or track of things that are meant to be well? So much to chew on and ponder. Was there any possible, exchange of anything to make people act ignorant? Because these are strong cases. There were a lot of valid points to. Anyways, we're not on a debate show here. It's just the newspaper review. So I'll go on with that story and leave that for some other occasion. And there are pictures there of the Morocco earthquake. It looks pretty devastating. People trapped underneath rubble, people looking confused, people wailing and crying as losing their loved ones. So Punch says Morocco earthquake victims rise to 2,122 children. Worst hit, as usual, they're the most vulnerable. You can get that story on page 8. And on page 7, Ogun, ex-governor Daniel's wife clash over plaza demolition. I talked a bit about that. NDLEA at it again on page 5 as they seize 399 explosives, illicit drugs, a grandma and others arrested. Are they planning to blow up somewhere? Apparently, but hey, this is a bit too much. So you can get more of that on page 5. And still on page 5, 24 dead, 30 rescued in Niger boat accident. Condolences to those who have suffered loss. All right, and from the Punch, I move on to the Nigerian Tribune. Above the masthead on page 27, 24 dead, many missing in Niger boat accident. And death toll in Morocco earthquake reaches over 2,000 on page 25. And the major story, the big story, which is just below the masthead of the Nigerian Tribune, on the presidential election, Catholic bishops tell the Supreme Court, don't bend the law. Don't bend the law. I was trying so much to avoid this, but it keeps on coming in my face. So I was talking a bit about, the law being twisted and certain terms that I now consider ambiguous being used to confuse people. I mean, how can you say due to technicalities? What are those technicalities? Well, before the presidential election, so much was expended on procuring electronic transmission and viewing devices like the iRev and the BVAS. At the end of the day, what did BVAS do? I remember asking those questions strongly on several platforms. What if this BVAS fails? What if iRev gets compromised? And these things eventually happen. And they're being said that iRev, BVAS, they're not relevant for electioneering purposes. I mean, how can you do that? How can you say after expending almost, was it about 89 billion on that? And it's another elephant project. Come on. I think people need to be called to order and really made to answer and be accountable for all that shoddy process, because that is what it is at the end of the day. And the Catholic bishops also say that politicians are using palliative distributions to enrich themselves. Anyways, on page 28, agents kick as maritime police detain 1,800 containers at Lagos port and say the detention is threatening port operations. But some of these agents are actually licensed customs agents, so not all people you see around the port are touts. Some are actually accredited. So I think they need to write stronger petitions or maybe make a peaceful protest to the police. All right, on page 18, 36 states get 1.51 trillion FAAT allocation in 6 months. I talked about that already. And the Northeast governor's concern is being raised over an influx of bandits and warns traditional rulers against aiding and abetting criminals. You can get that on page 29. On page 4, Ali Pate says 400,000 healthcare workforce is not enough for Nigeria. Well, it can't be enough. The right environment is not here to sustain a lot of these health workers we're talking about. Lab scientists, lab technicians, doctors, nurses, healthcare givers. They're running to where the grass is greener. You can't blame them. So is the government ready to train more people, and at what cost? So if that is really the government right now, not a personal thing. You can't stop people from migrating and moving. It's a personal choice. So give them what they want: better working conditions, better salaries, better incentives, things to work with, working tools, provided they won't go anywhere. Trust me. Destruction of 5-story building. That's a picture of the plaza that is owned by Mrs. Gbenga Daniel. There has been a trade of firm words by the government and Gbenga Daniel's wife and Daniel himself. So on page 3, that's where the story is. The government of Ogun State has come out to say it's an illegal structure and it contravenes physical planning law, and a notice was served to the owners of that premises since May 2022. And Daniel's lawyers say it's an act of executive recklessness. That Ken Plaza paid the government 500,000 naira mandatory fee on August 2. Is that fee for not trying to remove the plaza, or is that fee for changing an illegal structure to a legal one? I really. Anyways, they add that as the government ignored court papers served it last week. So even if you serve the government papers to stop that demolition or destruction, does it still remove the fact that it's an illegal structure that is not in a properly planned place? When we see the truth, let's face it and speak it as it is. Well, those are front page headlines from the different papers this morning, and we'll just take a quick look at sports at the back page of the Nigerian Tribune. And Harry Kane says he faces a different kind of pressure at Bayern. Well, he moved there, so I guess he will know how to handle that pressure. And in the US Open, Coco Gauff wins first major Grand Slam. That's another, looks like she's another Serena in the making. Coco Gauff really proved her potential at that US Open final, and she had her winning for her Grand Slam title over Arina Sabalenka there. So the 19-year-old is doing great, and she It was a straight 2-6, 6-3, 6-2 win. And that was good. Very, very good, I must say. AFCON qualifiers, Osimhen bags hat-trick as Eagles whips out Tommy 6-0. Strickland storms Adesanya to snatch UFC middleweight belt. I wish I had time to talk about this, but what that fight I was displeasure to say the least. Anyways, it's been great reviewing the newspapers this morning here on Newsbuster. And don't forget that you can always watch this. It's always up on our YouTube channel. So when you get there, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, of course. And you can see us on other social media handles and platforms like Twitter and Facebook here at Newsbuster NG. And catch the latest of the local news on our website at newsbusterng.com. All right, from me, Jennifer, do enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Bye.